Okay, so far we've been working in object mode. If we click on here, we can see we have a few different modes and we're going to look at edit mode next. But first, let's clear the rotation and the scale and the movement of our monkey. So again, it's Alt and R to clear the rotation, Alt and G to clear the scale. The movement, and Alt and S to clear the scale. And I'm just going to turn on the movement manipulator. Not sure why I don't use it, but I just like the look of it. It's just a good reminder of what our axes are. Okay, so we've so far been working in object mode. We can now go to edit mode, or a quick way to toggle between object mode and edit mode is tab on your keyboard. So you can see tab toggles in and out of edit mode to object mode. Okay. Oop. And I've cleared the rotation of the monkey, so let's quickly sort that out. We can do that in object mode, please. So press R for rotate in the x-axis by 90 degrees, and monkey's facing forward again. Good. Okay, so again, let's tab into edit mode, and you can see we can now see all the vertices. That's plural of vertex. A vertex is a single point that makes up our model. So again, right-clicking selects. All the rules in Blender tend to apply throughout the different modes. So we can right-click, select our different vertices, and we can do the same things as before. We can grab them, and actually let's select a few. So hold down Shift and right-click, and you can see we add. We select a few more vertices to work with. So now if I do a rotate, you can see they all rotate. Left click to accept that movement, S for scale, also scales, and G still moves. And again, you can use your manipulator if you prefer. Okay. We're working in vertex select mode, so that means we are just selecting our vertices, individual vertices. There are another couple of modes we can work with. If you look down here, we've got edge select mode, and you can see what that does. Instead of individual vertices, it selects pairs of vertices, which are edges. And let's move swiftly on. And the one next to edge select mode is face select. And what that does is it selects a whole face at a time. And a face is always made up of 4 vertices, sometimes 3, but we like to avoid triangles, but we'll come to that later. So right-click selecting and holding down Shift will add to those selections, and we can very quickly select whole faces in one go. And again, scaling and rotating all apply. Good. Okay. And for those of you who like keyboard shortcuts, as I do, you can toggle between your different modes with Control and Tab. So I can quickly jump between the different modes, vertex, edge, and face select. And let's just, for the purposes again of the next exercise, undo a couple of times till our monkey is looking back to normal. Aha, okay, well, interesting. Blender allows you to undo 32 times, and I've clearly done more movements than 32. But no matter, what we can do is tab back into object mode and undo, and it will let us go back a couple of steps in object mode, which sort of bypasses all the movements we've done within our edit mode. Okay, so a lot of the time you'll be wanting to model and use a mirror modifier, which basically means that whatever movements you do on one side will also happen to the other side. So let's go into front view, and at the moment monkey is fully opaque, so he's not transparent at all. If we want to make it so that we can select things behind our view, if we look down next to our selection modes, we've got this option to limit selection to visible. We want to uncheck that. You can see now that monkey is kind of transparent, and it means we can click vertices or edges or faces, depending on what mode you're working in, through our monkey, and this can be quite useful. useful to work between both modes, really. Okay, so to begin with, we want to get rid of half of our monkey first. So the next thing we're going to learn is, let's imagine we've got a load of stuff selected. A on your keyboard toggles between select all and select none. So let's have no vertices selected, so there should be no highlighted vertices. And the next thing we're going to learn is box select tool. So that's B for box select. And what that does is it brings up a crosshairs kind of thing. And what we want to do is, starting sort of away from our object, you can work at either side really. I'm going to get rid of the vertices on our right hand side, left click and drag, and we want to select all the vertices to the right of our middle line. And we don't want the middle line selected because we want to keep that intact. So if I press delete now, you can see we've got more options. Various things that we can delete. In this instance, we just want to delete the vertices. So let's click on vertices, and we've got a nice clean cut. Let's imagine that we didn't get a nice clean cut, so I'll just deselect, which I should have mentioned. If you want to take away from your selection, you can also shift and right click to add or subtract from our selection. So I've purposefully deselected some of our vertices, and let's do another delete and vertices. We have a few straggled vertices that we want to get rid of, so we can do the same again. B for box select, left click and drag, and just carefully select those vertices and delete vertices, and there we go. One way or another, we've got a nice clean cut down the middle of our monkey. Okay, so we're now going to look at our properties window to the right. You may need to middle click to move your menu bar at the top here, and what we want is the modifier tab. So if you click on that, we've got our modifiers window, and what we want to do is add a modifier to our monkey. We're going to need to tab into edit mode, object mode, and add modifier, and let's add mirror, and there we go. It's automatically given us a mirror modifier, which basically means if I can now go into edit mode, whatever I do on the right hand side also happens on the left. Well, that should have been the other way around, but you know what I mean. Okay, so what I would recommend at this point is having a little experiment messing up your monkey. And I'll just have a little bit of a play so you can kind of watch the various things that are possible to do. So again, we can work between our modes. I tend to use face and vertex select mode the most. I very rarely use edge select mode, but that'll be up to you. So the usual things apply. We can scale, and we can move, and we can rotate our vertices and faces. And actually another handy way of selecting vertices or faces or whatever, I just do A to deselect everything, and if I hold down Control on your keyboard and left click and drag, this is called our lasso selection, and this is kind of a freer way of quickly selecting vertices or faces or whatever. Okay, and just to remind you, shift and right click adds or takes away from our selection. Okay. And I should also mention that if you hold down Control and Shift and use the lasso tool, we can take away from our selection as well. So that's quite handy. Oops. Control and Z, always very handy. Let's scale that in the y-axis. Vertex select mode. So again, I was using Control and Tab to quickly move between the modes, but you can use those icons here, buttons, whatever. Okay. Okay, and let's learn one more thing while we're at it, actually. So far, when we move a vertex, it's the only thing that moves. The surrounding vertices are not affected. So let's learn something else. Next to our limit selection to visible button, there's proportional editing mode, which is very handy. So let's click enable. The shortcut is O, and if I move a vertex now, you can see that the vertices around it are affected by that movement. And the area of influence is shown by this big white circle. If we want to make the area that it influences a bit smaller, while in proportional editing mode, press G, and then the scroll wheel changes the area that's affected. So now a smaller area is affected when we move vertices or faces. Okay, have some fun messing around with Blender and messing up your monkey, and we'll move on to the next exercise.